every piece in here is early American, locally made, which is really cool. Tracy chairs made in Lisbon. We know the Tracy's because they're stamped on the backside. Allen was Tracy's son-in-law, lived in Wyndham, built these unbelievable, this was on the cover of the Connecticut Historical Society.
I mean, yeah,
Wow.
what good shape that thing is.
Yeah.
Well, they don't,
This is called an Allen,
he's the,
Alan Tracy?
and Allen Tracy out of Wyndham.
no, this is Wyndham,
Yeah,
Tracy was out of Lisbon.
yeah.
Tracy's claim to fame, he was the first to mass produce these sort of chairs. Somebody did the spindles, somebody did the seats, and somebody did the legs, and so they were put together. So a lot of them around. They're probably worth about.
So the last name is Alan over there?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. This is Edward Waldo's deacon chair, and I always have fun with that because we talk a lot about the history of religion and separatism. Scotland, as we may or may not know, had several separatist movements. Waldo was part of one, that was deacon chair, and when he didn't like what the congregational church minister was saying, who in this case was his father-in-law, he would leave
Yes,
his
devotion.
chair home, and then they built a separatist church up on Pudding Hill. And they would go there until that was shut down, because Congregationalism was the law. You could only be a Congregationalist until the early 1818s or so. The Baptists became more prevalent, and the laws were changed. But Edward, they all went to church. Religion was as essential to their lives as oxygen. And the Bible would have been it's the most prevalent book, and there were hundreds of copies of the Bible, and they read it and they knew it verse line, and that deep-seated religious thinking is what led to them. They were early on abolitionists, which would have not been something most people were, but you'll read in Waldo's, they were all early abolitionists, and probably had. But they did have slaves, though. The second generation, before the abolition movement, had an elderly black couple.
Yeah. As did the Huntingtons.
As did the Huntingtons. And Connecticut had the largest population of slaves before the Revolution of any state in New England. I think the number was 3,000.
Wow.
Or something like that. By the way, if you didn't read the piece on the Scotland Historical webpage, which is impossible to get to,
Yeah.
you get to it, you'll find this piece, and this will give you a lot of history by me of it's about Jeannie Waldo, kind of reminiscences about the house and a lot of history there. So that would help you if you wanted to learn more about them. And it talks a little bit about the pieces here. So the setting is the most important thing, a little history. That's a Huntington chest made in Norwich. So you see they're all very local pieces, and that's kind of makes it, I think, real relevant.
Did you ever see the article? Remember about a year and a half ago, the guy came up here to take photos.
I never did see
I
it.
know.
Did you see it?
No, he was supposed to have given me a link, I guess, to the article.
And he was with the big shots out of Hartford, right?
I think it was New York. I think he came from New York.
I thought it was the husband and wife antique dealer type.
Yeah,
I forgot their names.
yeah,
But they were doing some research on him, right?
yeah. And they were going to do a story, and this was one of the features.
I love this particular chest just to embellish it because it's a country chest on chest. The ones that were mostly made were very elaborate for city folk, and they were like, could never fit in this house because they were taller and they all had kind of Baroque embellishments. And this is just purposeful, beautiful, utilitarian, which is really what I think a lot of them would have felt strongly about: work, duty, family, core values that they would have had forever. I mean, at least for the first 6 or 5 generations anyway. But I always read letters when I do tours. There are some letters here if anybody ever wants to read them. This one I like because of the particular day it is. She's writing, this is another spinster woman like Ruth's. By the end of the Civil War, she says here, the cannons are still, she's hearing cannons firing and spraying. The cannons are still booming and more bells ringing than I ever heard here at once before, and more than I thought could possibly be heard from this secluded valley. It's a dark, rainy day, but I have caught the inspiration, and having been singing the chorus to John Brown, I repeat these words so often. This is the day we long have sought. I do truly rejoice from my inmost soul. Jehovah has triumphed, his people are free. And that's really what the Civil War, which is probably the most important event, one of the most important events in our history, these guys, they wouldn't have fought in the war, but they helped bring it about. So anyway, these are devotion pictures, famous Chandler portraits. They're in the Lyman Allen. The Scotland Historical Society owns the one on the right. The one on the left is owned by the Lyman Allen. My grandmother gave that to the Lyman Allen and that to Ruth, and they were here forever. They're as tall as the floor to the ceiling. So these are just photographs, and that's a little chart of the devotion. Like all colonial families, they intermarried a lot. They married Huntingtons, they married devotions, so they're triple, 3 times, double cousins, and they're all related to the Huntington, to Sam, through his brother, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I would like to find out more about this wallpaper.
Yeah, yeah.
How would we find that out?
There is a website that has a ton of wallpaper. How you find a particular one, but when we were looking at trying to have it done for the Huntington house, Mary Lou Davis tipped us off. I think it's the Antiquarian Society or one of those New England antiquities. If you go to their website, I'll bet you'll find a link to the wallpaper thing. But like I say, it's so huge to try to find a particular pattern.
Take forever.
It would take forever. You're better off getting someone down like Mary Lou that would be able to look at that and tell you.
Would she, now, how much would that cost?
Well, of course, there's always a fee. We want to have it done at the Huntington house,
Well,
because
maybe we could work a deal out.
Yeah, I know.
Did you ever contact anyone in historic New England up around Boston? 'Cause they have a huge.
That's probably the one that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And it is, like I say, it's online. You can go through and look, but to try to find a specific pattern, I gave it a quick look and never did.
Good
find-
story here, quickly, if you, this would help you read it. I mean, if you're
Oh,
doing
wow.
a tour, it's my favorite, I always say it's my favorite piece, it isn't, but you say it anyway. Because it relates to the Waldo tree. The Waldo tree is the oldest English black walnut in the state of Connecticut, documented. It's in the family Bible, the Eunice devotion. Waldo planted it, and she married Ebenezer Waldo in 1792 or 4. And it's in the notable books, notable trees of Comm College and all that stuff. And every so often a limb falls off the tree, and what do we do with the limb? Well, we don't burn it. We this particular candlestick stand was made from a limb, and it's written here made from a portion of the black walnut tree planted by Eunice Waldo in, he says 1797, by Myron Wright, woodworker, Sprague, Connecticut, in 1991 for the Scotland Historical Society.
Wow.
Now, Mr. Wright, who I think I met once, was a very nice old man, and did he charge us? No. So I like it because that's a volunteer spirit of people doing things for their community or for their historical society, and try to, I think we're all struggling with that. We don't have enough volunteers. We don't, we need more people to sort of step up. All right, and deeds, these are all the original deeds to the property. Revolutionary War letters, which are hard to read, but there's a copy of it here. Great patriotic letter.
The copies of these things?
These are copies. All the originals are not here.
I don't know, but are there copies that are readable of these?
Well, all right, Larry, And I think it's up to you.
I was just wondering, you know.
Yeah, no, they're hard to read.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they haven't been transcribed otherwise.
No, I didn't transcribe it to you. Yeah, 'cause
Is this
it's-
Ruth?
That's Ruth, right?
Ruth?
Ruth, and so there you go. Now you can talk about her bequest, which is here, which says that why did she give the house? She wanted it to be used for philanthropic, educational, benevolent, scenic, whatever purposes.
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to do.
You saw that chunk of china that's written up there?
Is it here? Yeah.
Okay. Is it on display anywhere or is it up in the collections?
We can go to the next one.
Oh, very
It's a
good.
good.
Anything about this cannonball here or this shell? You know,
No,
that's a nice door stop.
it's a nice store.
Yeah.
Got a window shutter behind?
This isn't a window shutter yet. The old Indians, and I really want to be clear. I mean, we can stereotype, and everybody does with history, and David knows it better, much better than I do. But the Indian shutters were not to protect us from Native Americans. We had already killed them through diseases. They weren't here.
Yeah.
That's not your phone,
It's
obviously.
my fault.
No.
Okay. They weren't here when these guys came. They were, if I'm not mistaken, David, they were already dead.
There's people around, but so is this like a storm shutter then, basically?
The ones that were around were, I think, referred to as poor Indians, and they were much too poor to do anything to fight white guys who were coming here. And so, yeah, it's a keep. What were Indian shutters used for?
Keep out the sun in the summer, keep
Okay.
the house cooler, and then in the wintertime, it would
Yeah.
give you a little bit more insulation from the cold at night.
Is that the last original one,
It's
basically?
the only one I know of,
That's
and it
cool.
was on a runner. That Ruth changed the windows. The windows would have been bigger, I think.
Huh.
The framing, I don't remember, but we did that once, and it had a a grid.
Oh, they were on the inside?
Usually they're on the inside.
Oh, that's
The
pretty
Huntington houses has them that still work, and they're on the inside.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. The Simon Huntington Tavern in Norwich, you'll see them actually being used in that house. You'll go by in the morning and you'll still see them drawn.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep, they still use them.
Huh. Cool. Anything else?
It's good.
I don't know. Is this a good example of the renovations? Basically, is this like plaster and stuff, and you got some cutaway chunks?
Myron did this.
Yeah.
All right, Stan's was.
Myron wrote a nice little piece about the house, which I'm forever indebted to. I know he's still involved with you guys, right?
Yeah, he'll be coming next week to
Yeah, I'm
the.
sorry to miss it. He's gonna do a tour?
He's gonna speaking program.
Is he still teaching?
I don't know if he is. Yeah, I'm not sure. I know he's a member of the Historic Preservation Council now, and he's getting back involved now that he's back
He
on
went
in the
away,
States.
right?
Yeah, he went to Ukraine or
Yeah.
somewhere out that
Place to
way.
get away from.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, I thought he was the Casanel, but
Yeah.
anyway, that was my opinion. We took this down to show the summer beam. This is done to hold the plaster. People ask that question, why is it chipped like that? Well,
Yeah, it's not hand hewn like that. That's for sure. Yeah.
Right. And then he did the corner cuts here to see, I think he was trying to date it.
Yeah, if they were chamfered,
All right.
it would have been exposed right from the get-go. If they were squared, chances are it was going to be covered right away with casing.
We're pretty sure Ruth plastered these. She lived in New York City and she brought the Metropolitan Museum up and they said, oh, plaster these over and do this color and that. And she followed their advice, whether it was right or wrong, I don't know.
Yeah.
Myron was the one who suggested, and I think he's probably right, that it was just like most of these places, they've evolved over time. It's not, what you see is not, wasn't built at once. Probably one room over another to begin with. The family then expanded, and then the chimney, and the money, when the Waldos married the Devotions in the late 1700s, then some major renovations occurred, some nice, better molding and stuff like that.
We did find evidence of that in the attic beams, posts that go up that don't connect to anything. So it almost looks as if a house was built around the original house. Something along those lines. It'd be nice to get into those walls just to see what those beams were, what the intent was when those things were, they're probably the oldest, probably the original portion of the house. So the house that you see here isn't what was built in entirety in 1715.
Correct, right. Yeah, you spent a lot of time